everyone, this is Diamond Girl 34 and welcome back to another video. This is part 2 of roasting my old book, where we're going to finish reading my old book and just, roast it a bit more, because if you did not see the last video, it is a book about mermaids that I wrote when I was like 10. And it's pretty terrible, and I'm glad I've improved writing skills, so let's get right into this at chapter 9. Chapter 9. We've got to do something, Cleo said. River swam to Cleo. What were those people doing? Flame sighed. Taking pictures of me. With my tail. Cleo turned to loop-the-loop. We've got to stop them showing those pictures to any scientists. Flame nodded. River nodded. Cleo, Flame, River, Sky, Leia and Skipper were swimming through the streets of Oceania looking for the Queen. She would help them, they were sure of it. Leia smiled. Okay. On their way to the Queen, they bumped into a mermaid with short, choppy black hair and deep blue eyes. Yikes, sorry, said the mermaid. That's okay, said Sky. She was about to start swimming again when she turned. I'm Sky, by the way. The mermaid smiled. I'm Raven, said Raven. Nice to meet you, Raven. They all smiled. They all introduced themselves. Okay, this is the bit that's stupid. They meet this random girl and casually tell her all about the thing that they're doing. It's like, heck. Well, it was just basically a excuse to introduce a new character. Could have done that in a lot of other ways. But, oh well. Soon they were telling her all about the sisters, who would probably do icky operations on them if they were found. They joined at River and Flame's underwater house. I thought they were going to, find the Queen. Why they, suddenly decided to go to River and Flame's underwater house? Skipper happened to know that Cleo and Leia were afraid of the dark. So as they were talking, he glided to the light and switched it off. Casually, haha, it's time to lighten the mood with a little bit of a prank. Ha, those boys. The girls screamed and suddenly looked at Raven. To their complete amazement, Raven's night black tail was shining, almost glowing in the dark. Never ever mentioned again. Raven grinned. It's happened since I was born. Skipper switched the light back on and Raven's tail was normal again. Cleo turned to the others and put a coral map on the table. There were red circles around where the sisters would walk out to the beach. I've got a plan. Hi, this is Editing Room Di, who's just noticed something else. When did she have time to make that map? Leia wasn't used to this sort of situation. Tracking the people who were tracking them. Their feet made no sound as they ducked behind rocks watching the sisters. How do they know that they're sisters? Quick answer, they don't. They've got no idea who they are. They were careful not to let their feet touch the water. The sun was gone and the moon was full and shining brightly. The sisters were sitting, Gabriella's binoculars fixed on the horizon and Gwendolyn's binoculars scouting the water. They had no idea the friends were already out of the ocean. They had no plan, but Cleo knew someone who would have one. Raven had Anne's stepbrother called Percy, and he could be trusted. Okay, 1. The first bit of this chapter is actually written really nicely. Got to give myself credit for that. 2. Cleo met Raven, either yesterday or this morning. How does she know that she has a stepbrother? And 3. No, that's all I've got. Soon they had found him, told him, and were walking back to the beach with a plan. On their way, they stopped at a toy shop and bought a silver tail just like Flame's. I can say that a fake mermaid tail is not just casually bought at a toy shop. I wanted to have one for years before my parents finally let me have one. They're like 30 quid. Goodness. So, said Raven, Percy will swim out to sea. Why me? Whined Percy. Because, said Raven, if any of us swim out, our tails will appear. They've got to think this was all a big misunderstanding. Not likely, said River, but it's worth a try. Raven's older brother Percy swam out to sea and went underwater. Then he flicked the fake tail about, just like there was a mermaid over there. Gabriella and Gwendolen got up, and, already in swimming costumes, swam out to where they thought the mermaid was. And it was then that Cleo sat on top of a rock and kept watch, while Skipper sat on the other side of the rock, keeping watch also. That's not a sentence that can start with, and it was then. Flame ducked behind chairs and watched the others. This all happened while Sky took the camera, passed it to River, and he deleted the pictures of Flame. Mission accomplished. I'm sure you're wondering where Leia or Raven came into this. They didn't. Leia sat behind a rock, almost having a heart attack, while Raven comforted her. All the same, mission accomplished! But Cleo had a feeling that wasn't the last they would see of the sisters. Cleo's intuition! Chapter 11. It was Thursday morning, and Mrs. Evans was cutting Leia's hair. Leia had decided she wanted it cut into a little curly bob. She got off the seat and looked in the mirror. Thanks, Mrs. Evans, said Leia. It looks amazing. It was no trouble, smiled Cleo's mother. Leia smiled. Come on, she said to Cleo. The two girls ran outside where the others were waiting for them. Raven wasn't there, but Percy was. You've been ages, frowned Sky, crossing her arms. But then she smiled. Your hair looks amazing, Leia. They all splashed into the sea. Cleo, Flame and River dived right in, letting the transformation happen quickly as the water covered them. But Sky, Leia and Skipper paddled in, letting the transformation happen slowly as the little waves swished round their legs. But whatever the way they did it, soon all of them flicked their tails around happily, calling to each other as they swam around. Percy shouted, "Goodbye!" and let them swim off to Oceania. The sisters were furious that they'd been tricked. Now they were certain that they had to prove their theory. They didn't know for sure that all of them were mermaids, seeing as they had only seen Flame's tail. In fact, they'd only seen Flame's face. The others had been turned away at the time, but they guessed they must be. Foolish, foolish sisters. Well, I mean, they guessed right. But it's still pretty foolish. The sisters lived together in a big house, but that didn't mean they were rich. In fact, the opposite. The sisters were broke. They knew that the mermaid theory would get a lot of money if it were proven. That was part of the reason they were so hung on proving it. Hung up on proving it? No, don't think that makes sense. Raven ran out of her house and into the water. "I'm coming, guys!" she shouted as her tail appeared. She had been swimming a few minutes. Then she saw them. She swam up behind them all. "I'm here, guys," she smiled. "Raven!" smiled Skipper. The sisters were strolling down the beach when they saw it, the flicker of a movement under the water. They rushed, a little hesitantly, as they had been tricked before, up the beach. But luckily the mermaid, name of Dawn, saw them and swished down to Oceania. "Blow," said Gwendolen. "We almost had her," snarled Gabriella. "We almost had her." "Oh. It's all right, Gabriella," said Gwendolen. "We'll get her next time." Dawn came out of nowhere and bumped into Sky. "Hey, watch where you—" "Hey, you're crying," said Sky. "What's the matter?" "Two women," said the little girl, "tried to grab me." "Gabriella and Gwendolen," snarled Cleo. It's about a 50% chance it is them." "Poor kid," said Cleo. "How mean of the sisters to pick on her." "A mermaid's a mermaid to them," said River. "They don't know the difference between a pufferfish and a pancake." "Huh?" said Sky. "I'm just saying that those sisters don't know the difference between a child mermaid and an adult mermaid," said River. "You saying my mum's a pancake?" said Leia. "Forget it," said River. See, that joke used to be funny when I writ it. When I wrote it. Isn't writ a word? All the friends had divided to take a break from going down to Oceania and be humans for a day. So the next day was strolling down the beach. "I'm going to go see my merman dad this evening," said Raven. Raven's father had been a merman, her mother a human. Then he'd gone away, and her mother had married again, this time a human. That's how Percy was a human and Raven a mermaid. Nice backstory. "Oh," said Sky. What is it? Asked Raven. I wanted to ask you over to my house with my family, to hang out, said Sky. I would love to come, said Raven. I visit my dad every week, so I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Then she went quiet and said, I've never really had many friends, not with humans or mermaids. I kind of connect more with creatures. I have a dog on land and a seahorse in Oceania, but I love it. She smiled and hugged her. Yay, said River, and Flame jumped in the air. Appropriate response? I'm not even going to say anything about that paragraph because that's stupid. They continued walking down the beach. Maybe the sisters have decided to take a day off, commented Skipper. Looks very empty. It's highly unlikely, stated Leia. They're probably just scouting the other side of the beach. Leia held River's hand. I hope. Woof, things have progressed between you two. Sky looked pleased with herself. She had taken the camera. It was because of her that the sisters weren't showing the photos to scientist people right now, and she was proud of it. Sky wasn't the sort of person to get proud, but this had been a matter of life and death, or so she told herself. Sky's proudness never mentioned again. Suddenly they saw two people coming round a bend in the rocks that went round the beach. The sisters! They all ran behind a rock. Someone has to spy on them, whispered Leia. They didn't see my face, said Cleo. Yeah, pretty sure they could have. Skipper looked at her. Okay, she said. Skipper's a boy. Okay, he said, but we are here if you need us. Cleo stepped out from the rock. Her yellow trainers slightly crunched on the sand. Cleo started cartwheeling. Flame rolled her eyes, but it worked. The sisters briefly looked at her, then continued. Cleo stopped mid-cartwheel and followed them on her hands. The sisters briefly looked around them once or twice, but Cleo was ready. Every time they looked, she looked like a regular girl, cartwheeling on the seashore, so she was safe. She followed them for a while, and then went back to the rock. Well done, said Flame. See anything? Nothing, said Cleo. What's the point of that? The next day was a scorcher. So all the friends stayed under the water in Oceania. That day was where it went wrong. Cleo was swimming through Oceania when she looked up to the surface. She saw something twinkle, and she wondered what it was. She knew she had to be careful, but her curiosity took control of her. When Cleo had got to the surface, the twinkling diamond flicked away and she felt a hand on her shoulder. Finally, said Gwendolyn, rolling her eyes. You fell for it. These are like women in their 40s. Doesn't this seem a bit creepy to you? They took her, and she didn't struggle. It was over. No, it wasn't. What? Like, escape? All she hoped was that her friends would notice her absence and look for her, but now it was all she could do to wait. There's a bit more you could do. Cleo was pushed into a pool on the rooftop of the sisters' big house. She felt the familiar sensation as her legs became her orange sparkling tail. So they're broke, but like they can afford a rooftop pool? Gabriella clapped her hands and Gwendolyn said triumphantly, yes! It was when she'd spent one day in that pool that she found her way out. The house was pretty tall, and Cleo could see the seaside, where she and almost all of her friends lived in beach houses. She spotted Percy in his garden. Gwendolyn had been writing a letter to the board of scientists in a nearby college, telling them all about mermaids. A picture of Cleo was pinned on the paper. Cleo smiled and swam to the edge of the pool where a few sheets of paper and a pen had been left, conveniently. She grabbed a sheet of paper and, throwing the picture of her into the pool, squiggled a message on it. Percy, help! I'm being held at the top of the sisters' house in a swimming pool. I heard them talking about getting people to come see me. Get the others. Come if you can. From Cleo. She folded the paper into a plane and shot it at Percy. She'd always been good at throwing darts and saw it whiz through the air. I mean, you can be good at throwing paper at airplanes, but it kind of depends on, the wind. Her dart-throwing skill stayed true to her, and the plane landed right in his garden. Cleo watched him unfold it. Then she saw him run out of his garden. Now maybe she'd get a rescue party. Rescue party. Okay, she's been in it one day and her parents haven't, phoned 999? Seems odd. Percy ran out of his garden and to the ocean. Leia! Raven! He shouted. 3 heads surfaced. Skipper, Leia and Raven. They were smiling, but then their smiles disappeared when they saw Percy's panicked expression. "What happened?" asked Leia, coming to shore and drying her tail. That's not how to correctly spell drying. He passed her the paper and she read it. A tear appeared in her eye and she put her head on Skipper's shoulder. He read it and Raven read over his shoulder. Raven clapped her hand over her mouth. "Whew!" "No!" she said. "We have to tell the others!" Flame and River were together in their yard. Sky was behind a rock playing with her dog. Soon they were having a rescue mission meeting. Yeah! Chapter 16. Get ready for the most underwhelming ending ever. Look how short this flipping chapter is. Soon they snuck up to the house. "Shush," said Sky. They snuck in at the door and up the stairs that led to the roof. They could hear the sisters talking on the roof. They snuck behind the door and then ran onto the roof. I didn't know the rule about not repeating a word, like a few words in front of it. If you don't know that rule, don't do that. You don't want to be saying the same word over and over again. It just doesn't have a good ring to it. "What's this?" said Gwendolyn. Gabriella recognised Flame and shouted, "Mermaids!" pushing them into the pool next to Cleo. Their tails were so beautiful, splashing around. The sisters started snapping photos. "Hey guys," said Cleo sadly. They also pushed in Percy, thinking he was a merman, and mid-descent he grabbed the camera. It fell into the pool, flickered, and the screen went black. "Our proof!" shouted Gabriella. Having legs, Percy was able to jump out of the pool and push the sisters off the edge to their deaths. No, not really. They probably would have broken a leg. Or their back! This is a building! But they fell onto a dumpster truck. American phrases. That presently drove them off to who knows where, shouting at the gang as they went. Oh yes, because you get driven off by a dumpster truck. Garbage lorry. And you're gone forever. They all hoisted themselves up onto the edge and dried their tails. "3 cheers for Percy!" Flame yelled. The others cheered as Percy smiled. Cool. I like the ending of having the human save them. But it's pretty rubbish. Chapter 17. It was Thursday morning, and Cleopatra Evans was drinking lemonade in the big cave with the lovely lip. No one to spy on them now, just the big grey sky and the stormy sea and big drops of rain. For the first time in a long while it was raining, so the friends were not stretched out on the lip as they would have liked to be. They were huddled together at the back of the cave. It was not cold weather, just rather wet. "So I told my parents," said Cleo, who was wearing a wool jumper of her mother's that was way too big for her. "Sold them to who?" asked Cleo. "Not sold, told," shouted Cleo. "Told them what?" said Skipper, who was rather bored. "Well, of course that I'm a mermaid," said Cleo, laughing. "I also told them how." "So how did they take it?" asked River. "Well," said Cleo, "they laughed at first, seeing as it was coming from a 13-year-old girl with an imagination who was also their daughter. But after I showed them my tail by splashing a cup of water on my legs, I think they really took it well." Raven, did you finally get over having a baby brother?" asked Flame. "Yes," said Raven, "and it's a pity he'll be human, because I would love to show him Oceania." She smiled at Flame. Raven's mother had just had a little boy named Tom. "Yeah," said Cleo, "it's a pity." Flame got up. "So who's going to have a swim with me?" "Me? I've been stuck at home all week." Raven stood up and started running on the spot. Leia nodded. "I'm in." Sky pulled Cleo towards the ocean. As soon as they were on the lip, the rain turned them into mermaids. Cleo laughed and rolled into the stormy waves, ducking underneath the foam. "We can swim to the dolphin hall," suggested Raven, diving into the water. So that's what they did. Oh, it's so sweet, but rubbish. So as you can see, you know the reason why I hate that. So actually, I have I say started, but it was ages ago. So I like rewrote this and made it a bit better. Like turned it into a script for a movie. So, okay, I know you're scared that I'm gonna go through it all, but I just wanted to read you the ending because it's a lot better. I wanted to like prove myself that I can be a good writer. Exterior: cave/rock. Morning. Sky. I can't believe it's raining. I hate this so much. We can't lie on the beach. We have to stay huddled at the back of this stupid cave. Flame. At least we have lemonade. Pause. So I finally told my parents. Sold them to who? Not sold, told. Told them what? That I'm a mermaid. I also told them how. So how did they take it? Well, they laughed at first, seeing as it was coming from me. But after I showed them, I think they really took it well. So Raven, are you finally happy about having a baby brother? Yes, and it's a pity he'll be human because I would love to show him Oceania. Yeah, it's a pity. So what did the Queen do to the scientists? Instead of having the rubbish ending of them falling off a building into a dump truck and pretending like that solves everything, basically the Queen dealt with it. Leia laughs. She wiped their memories. How much of it? Just enough to forget about mermaids altogether. They deserve it. Remind me to thank the Queen for sorting them out. So who's going to have a swim with me? Me? I've been stuck at home all week. I'm in. We can swim to the dolphin hall. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you would like to see more embarrassing stuff from my past, give this video a big thumbs up or a little thumbs up, depending on the size of your thumbs. This is a very big thumb, and this is a very small thumb, if you couldn't tell. Ooh, it's all about perspective. 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb more. If this is the first video you've seen from my lovely channel, please click this subscribe button here. And here I have put a video that I think you might like. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. See you later!